All right, let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off an impressive Week 1 victory, beating the Washington Commanders, a team that a lot of people expected the Buccaneers to beat, and beat them they did. They look good doing it, but the Buccaneers heading into a tough Week 2 matchup. They recently made a really smart under the radar move that I think Buccaneers fans will really appreciate. I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, like I said, the Buccaneers handled business Week 1. Good teams have to beat the bad teams. That's what we saw from the Buccaneers. Total team victory. They are clearly superior to Washington, but now all eyes have to turn to Week 2 in the Detroit Lions, a playoff rematch from last year and a potential future playoff matchup this upcoming season. This is going to be a really good challenge for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, and they recently added a key player that I think Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans will be excited to see back on the roster. Let's pull up this report courtesy of SI.com. The Bucs saw four different defensive backs go down against Washington. It's safe to say that Tampa Bay needs more bodies there, and they brought back a name that Bucs fans may be familiar with. The team announced Tuesday that it placed Hall on injured reserve and brought back cornerback Keenan Isaac. The Buccaneers waived Isaac at the end of preseason in hopes that he would return to the practice squad, but he was snatched up by Dave Canales and the Carolina Panthers and then placed on theirs. He was waived. He was recently waived, however, paving the way for him to come back to Tampa Bay. Isaac was very good in the preseason this year, netting a 91.2. That's not very good. That's exceptionally good. Coverage grade from PFF and allowing a 16.7 passer rating, nabbing a pick against the Cincinnati Bengals to boot. He's played in 2 games across his career in Tampa Bay. All right, look, it's never good to be dealing with injuries, but the reality is everyone does at some point in time. And the Buccaneers are bringing back a player who knows the system, knows the roster, knows the scheme, and he's a guy who looks to be on the upswing in his NFL career. Looks like a smart move by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this, but first, Bucs fans in the comment section below. Total team victory Week 1, undeniably so. The stars showed out. Baker Mayfield was great. Evans was great. But give us your under-the-radar MVP, the guy that no one really is paying a lot of attention to, that you think is off to a really great start this 2024 season. Give us that guy in the comment section below. But Miles, give me your thoughts on this latest Buccaneers news.
Yeah, Nick, I think this is probably as good as the news could get for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in regards to what they're able to put on the field against, like you said, a tough matchup against the Detroit Lions. You get guys that go down due to injury. It seems like for the most part, everybody is going to come back here in the next week or so, but you're coming into this game, and at that point, before the signing of Isaac, you just had a rookie in Tyreek Thunderberg who you're going to have to rely on. And that's not necessarily what you want to have in that aspect. Bring in Isaac. This is a guy who's had a lot of experience as far as practice or, preseason reps. This is a guy who I think has grown. If you look at the stats, a guy coming out of Alabama State, it seems like his first year in the league, maybe it just was a situation where he needed a little bit of time to catch up to the speed of the game. A guy coming from a small college, really had to grasp everything, and then he turns it on because you see his first preseason with the Bucs. This is a guy, okay, 61 overall grade, 34 tackling grade, 65 overall grade, not the best. You see things jump in year 2, though. He makes a huge leap, 87.9 overall grade, 76.9 tackling grade, 90.2 coverage grade, phenomenal grades, played lights out, as they alluded to, got the pick against Joe Burrow. That one was really big as well. But this is just a guy who's made a huge leap from year 1 to year 2. I'm sure the Bucs were upset when they lost him initially, but Panthers screwed it up, allowed him to sneak off their practice squad, make his way back to the Bucs. I think this is a really smart move. I think this is about as good as it gets as getting a guy familiar with their scheme who could potentially be a breakout player to come in versus the Lions.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's these kind of moves early in the season that can really be impactful. And here's why. Going into this Lions matchup, I know it's sort of a bellwether game. The Bucs want to see how good they are. But at this point in the season, the first month or so, especially now that the season, of course, is 17 games, it's much more about figuring out who you are stylistically as a team, your strategies, how you're going to just run your offense, run your defense, run your special teams. That's why some good teams start slow. It takes them a little bit to figure out. Some bad teams sometimes start fast, and then they kind of fall back into who they are. At this point in the season, it's more important for the Buccaneers to figure out who they are. Even though you'd much rather like to beat the Detroit Lions, obviously, it's much more important not to rush anybody back on the defensive side and make minor injuries a week or 2 out long-term injuries, right? Because the Buccaneers, we know they're probably going to be a playoff team, or at least a playoff containing team in the NFC South. It looks very winnable. Of course, they won that division in a playoff game last year. You don't want to overreact to a week 2 matchup, right? That's the worst thing you can do. And I think the addition of Keenan Isaac, who's going to play a lot for Tampa Bay against the Lions, I think is the right move to make. He's experienced. He knows the system. He can go out there. Guess what? Best case scenario, you pulled off one of the great undrafted steals in recent memory. Worst case scenario, you added another key depth piece that you can bring back up later if you need to, and allowing some other guys to rest for a week or two. And look, I know as much as you Bucs fans want to beat the Lions, if you look beyond week 2, week 3, you get the Denver Broncos. Again, 2-1 after 3 weeks. I think we'll take that. And then you go into a little bit of a gauntlet. You go Philly, Atlanta, New Orleans, Baltimore, and then Atlanta, and then Kansas City, then San Francisco 49ers before your bye, right? That is a brutal stretch. It is more important to be healthy at the beginning of that than to be healthy in week 2. That's the reality. This is a tough stretch there after the Denver Broncos for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is smart roster management by the Tampa Bay squad, understanding that it is more important to be healthy at the beginning of that stretch after week 3 than to push their guys for week 2. And again, worst case scenario, you got a guy in Keenan Isaac you can rely on as a depth piece for the future as well. All in all, smart move here by the Bucs.